So what actually happens when you quit sugar for just 2 weeks? I know it's a question a lot of us have kicked around. Well, today we're going to walk through a really fascinating first-hand account of someone who did exactly that. They cut out sugar completely just to see what would change: the good, the bad, and the totally unexpected. All right, let's jump right in.
Before we even get to the results, you gotta understand the opponent here. And sugar, well, sugar is a master of disguise. Of course, it starts with the obvious stuff. You know, that spoonful you might stir into your morning tea or your coffee. It's such a simple, everyday habit for millions of people.
And naturally, it's in the snacks that go right along with it. The biscuits, the cookies, all those little sweet treats we kind of rely on for that afternoon pick-me-up. But here's the real trick, right? It's where it hides in plain sight. It is packed into foods that we're told are healthy. Things like yogurts or granola bars. Sugar has basically become this default ingredient, which makes it incredibly hard to avoid, even when you think you're making a good choice. So, if it's in pretty much everything we eat, what actually happens to our minds and our bodies when we just stop, when we cut it out completely? That is the big question this 14-day experiment is all about answering. So you might be wondering, what pushes someone to even take on a challenge like this? Well, it wasn't some major health crisis. It was more like a collection of these small, nagging feelings that something just wasn't quite right. This was the daily reality before the whole thing began. And look, it's a story a lot of us can probably relate to. Feeling just wiped out during the day, fighting these intense cravings for something sweet right after dinner, dealing with skin that just won't cooperate, and then, bam, hitting that brutal energy crash every single afternoon. These were the daily struggles that really sparked this whole experiment.
Okay, so the decision was made, but the journey immediately hits its hardest part: the first 3 days. I mean, to put it mildly, they were a battle. This is the point where the body, which is so used to getting its regular fix, starts to push back, and it pushes back hard.
The shock to the system was immediate. Day 1 brought on these splitting headaches. By day 2, the cravings weren't just little suggestions anymore. They were these intense, overwhelming demands from your brain. And then by day 3, the mood swings showed up, turning tiny little frustrations into major struggles. And this is where a huge realization hit. This wasn't just about missing the taste of a cookie. The feeling was way deeper. It was more chemical. It was the brain, now deprived of its usual reward, basically screaming for that familiar hit of dopamine that sugar always delivered. You know, this led to the first major lesson of the whole detox. The sheer intensity of that withdrawal made one thing crystal clear: sugar isn't just a treat. For our brains, it actually operates on the same reward pathways as a lot of addictive substances. The connection was just undeniable. But after that initial, really brutal struggle, something started to shift. This was the turning point. The strategy had to evolve from just resisting cravings to actively outsmarting them. And the key wasn't about pure white-knuckled willpower. It was about making smart replacements. So sugary coffee became black coffee. That afternoon chocolate bar got swapped for some fruit and nuts. And all those sugary drinks were replaced with just more water. These were small, simple swaps, but they made a massive difference in getting a handle on the cravings. And by the end of that first week, the first real payoff finally arrived. That constant energy roller coaster, you know, the sharp highs and then the sudden crashes, it finally just leveled out. Energy became stable, it became consistent, and it lasted through the entire day. All right, now for week 2. This is where things really start to get good. If week 1 was all about survival and just stabilizing, week 2 was about discovering all the unexpected and genuinely surprising benefits of living sugar-free. And the positive changes just started to stack up. Sleep became deeper, more restful. The skin issues that were a huge motivation to start, they began to clear up. Mood stabilized, without those sudden weird flashes of irritation. And mentally, focus just sharpened, making it so much easier to concentrate for longer. It felt like each benefit was building on the last one. And other physical changes followed too. That feeling of being constantly bloated, gone. The habit of eating for emotional comfort, that just started to fade away. And most importantly, the cravings were no longer in the driver's seat. I mean, they were still there, but they were manageable. You were in control. So, we've seen all the physical stuff. The better sleep, clearer skin, the stable energy. But the biggest takeaway from this whole 14-day experiment, it wasn't about the body at all. It was actually something much more profound. I mean, just think about that for a second. After all of those real, tangible physical improvements, better sleep, clearer skin, no more energy crashes,
The biggest transformation of all was something you couldn't even see in a mirror or measure on a scale. It was happening inside.
It was mental control. It was that powerful feeling of being back in the driver's seat of your own choices. It was the incredible realization that you could consciously decide to do something and actually see it through, even when you're faced with old habits and really powerful cravings. It was about reclaiming your own mind.
And this is the real lesson here. The whole experiment was never really just about saying no to a donut. It was about proving to yourself that you have control over your own habits. That feeling of empowerment, of self-discipline, that's a reward that lasts way longer than 2 weeks. And you can apply it to just about anything in your life.
So, after walking through this whole journey, from that intense struggle at the beginning to that final, powerful realization about mental control, the question isn't really just about sugar anymore, is it? Seeing the benefits, and maybe more importantly, the lessons that were learned, what could 14 days of discipline unlock for you?